You know, we spend so much time on this deep dive talking about the relentless chase for yield.
Oh, constantly.
We're analyzing Fed movements, tracking inflation, searching for the best adult high-yield savings accounts that might get you, what, maybe 4.5%, 5% APY?
If you're lucky, and that's if you manage to hit all the promotional requirements they throw at you.
Exactly. And those rates, they're always fluctuating, right? They're tied to what the Fed's doing, so you have to stay incredibly agile just to keep up.
Mm-hmm.
But what if I told you that in diving into this week's source material, we found something completely different? We focused not on adults, but on young savers, kids, and teens, and we uncovered this financial anomaly.
Anomaly is the right word.
We found rates that don't just exceed the best adult accounts, they absolutely dwarf them.
Yeah.
So the mission today is crystal clear. We are hunting down the highest possible APY for young people, understanding the fine print, and then figuring out the alternatives.
And just to set the stage, here is the jaw-dropper fact that really defines this entire deep dive.
Yeah, what's the number?
The top rate available on a youth savings account right now is a remarkable 10.38% APY.
Wow, 10.38%. That's more than double the best rate an adult could hope for today.
It is.
It sounds too good to be true. And, you know, in the world of finance, that usually means there's a catch.
There absolutely is a catch, and it's the defining feature of the strategy we need to lay out for you. These institutions, and they are almost exclusively credit unions, not the big banks, they aren't doing this to fund a kid's college tuition with interest. It's a marketing tool, a highly targeted one. And because of that, they severely, and I mean severely, limit the balance that can actually earn that premium rate.
Okay, let's unpack this strategy then. We've been calling it the cap conundrum.
And that's really the heart of it, isn't it? The cap.
It is. This is the essential arbitrage opportunity here. You have to understand that this amazing yield is restricted. It's a brilliant way to incentivize saving habits, but it's not a place to park unlimited funds.
Not at all. When we look at the top tier, you have to mentally pair the incredible rate with the tiny maximum balance that qualifies.
Right.
So Spectre Credit Union, they're the leader of the pack at that 10.38% APY. But, and it's a huge but, that rate only applies to the first $1,000.
The first 1,000.
And the age limit for this specific account is strictly through age 17.
So we're talking about a strategy where you maximize that first 1,000 to earn about, what, $104 in interest a year? It's basically a guaranteed starter bonus.
That's a great way to put it. It's fantastic foundational money.
Okay, so what's next on the list?
Dropping just a bit in the rate, but keeping that same aggressive cap, you have Chevron Federal Credit Union. They're offering a very robust 7.000% APY.
Also on the first 1,000.
Also on the first 1,000, yeah. And they're a little more generous with the age range, extending it all the way through age 21.
And then I'm guessing the caps start getting even tighter.
They do. You've got Genesis Credit Union and BECU. Both are offering 5.12% APY, which is still exceptional.
Still great compared to adult rates, yeah.
But that rate only applies to the first $500 saved.
Only 500.
And this is where the strategy really requires some thought. BECU, for example, they spell out what happens when you go over that $500 cap. The rate plummets.
How far?
To 0.30% APY on any balance higher than that.
0.3. Oh, that's basically nothing. It's a fraction of what a normal high-yield account pays.
Exactly.
So this immediately creates a decision point for you, the learner. Is it worth chasing that 5.12% on just $500, or should you look for an uncapped account that pays a lower but still competitive rate across a much larger balance?
Let's run the math on that. I mean, maximizing that 10.38% on the first 1,000 is a no-brainer.
Right.
But what about the money after that? If you've got $5,000 set aside for a kid, you need a different home for the other 4,000.
Okay, so let's compare that second tier. You could leave the other 4,000 in that BECU account and earn a measly 0.30%.
Which is negligible, yeah.
Or you could open a secondary youth account. For instance, Alliant Credit Union offers 3.10% APY on any balance over $100 with no cap.
And the difference is substantial. $4,000 at 0.30% earns you $12 a year.
$12.
A same 4,000 at 3.10% earns you $124 a year.
Okay, so it's not even a question.
It's not. You have to embrace a multi-account strategy. You're not looking for the single highest rate. You're looking for an optimal combination of a capped high-rate anchor account and then a moderate, uncapped satellite account for the rest.
So the key takeaway here is clear. You maximize the high yield on that first 500 or 1,000, even if it means opening a special account just for that little chunk. And then you immediately move everything else somewhere better.
So now that we've got the strategy, let's talk about the structure, how these things actually work. Kids' savings accounts are typically set up as a custodial account.
Okay, and the concept is pretty straightforward, right? An adult, usually a parent or guardian, is the custodian. They manage the account.
They manage it, they make the decisions, yes. But here's the most critical legal point.
The distinction between the custodian and the owner.
Exactly. It might be the adult's name on the paperwork as the manager, but it is not their money.
That's a huge point.
Ownership is fixed. That money belongs to the minor. And typically, full control transfers to the child once they reach the age of majority, which is 18 in most states.
And any money that goes in is considered a gift, right?
A gift, and this is the key word, that is irrevocable. It's usually governed by laws like the Uniform Gifts to Minors Act, UGMA, or the Uniform Transfers to Minors Act, UTMA.
Irrevocable. So let's be perfectly clear on that. The minute that money goes into that custodial account, it's legally out of the adult's hands forever.
That's right.
You can't change your mind, can't ask for it back if you need it for something else. It's gone.
It belongs to the child. And that irrevocable nature is crucial. It can have other implications later, maybe even affecting financial aid for college. And it means the custodian must use the funds solely for the benefit of the minor.
So you can't use it to pay for, like, the mortgage or groceries.
Nope. Things the parent is already legally obligated to cover, like basic food and shelter, are off limits.
Okay, let's pivot to access, because as we said, all these great rates are locked behind credit union doors. A lot of people might think, well, I don't work for Chevron, I can't join.
Right, they assume they're locked out. But this is where the credit unions get really clever. To expand their reach nationwide, they partner with specific nonprofit organizations.
Ah, so there's a workaround.
There is. They let virtually anyone join through a small donation or a free, easily obtained membership.
Okay, let's walk through these hacks. Let's start with the highest yield. Spectra Credit Union. With that spectacular 10.38%, how do you get in?
Anyone can join. You just need to take a free one-year membership in a nonprofit called the American Consumer Council. That's it.
And you just have to keep a minimal balance, like $5 or something, in a member savings account.
Exactly. The cost of entry is essentially zero.
What about Chevron Federal Credit Union at 7.00%?
Very similar. You can become eligible by agreeing to a free one-year membership in the Financial Fitness Association. You might have to keep $25 in a savings account, but that's your ticket to a 7% yield.
It's almost funny you have to join the Financial Fitness Association just to open a savings account.
Yeah.
But hey, that's the loophole.
It is.
And what about BECU, the 5.12% one?
That one's maybe the simplest of all. Anyone nationwide can join by making a $1 donation to the BECU Foundation.
$1.
$1. So the lesson here is pretty clear. Geography is not a barrier to accessing these best-in-class capped yields.
Before we get into the tax headache, we should probably update the broader rate environment, because that really makes these youth rates even more attractive, doesn't it?
It really does. I mean, these 5% to 10% rates look like massive historical outliers in today's market.
Especially since general rates are now trending downward.
Mm-hmm. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the Federal Reserve cut interest rates by a quarter point at its last meeting on September 17th. That was the first cut since late 2024.
Right. And that action adjusted the federal funds rate range down to what? 4.00 to 4.25%?
That's the new range. And the feeling from the committee is that we can probably expect 2 more quarter-point reductions before the end of the year.
Which means?
Which means when the Fed cuts, general savings account rates follow, usually within a few weeks. So those high-yield accounts for adults sitting at 4.5% now, they could easily drop to 4% or even lower pretty soon.
So these fixed high-yield youth accounts are kind of precious right now.
Mm-hmm.
They're insulated from those immediate drops, at least on the capped amounts.
Incredibly precious.
Okay, so now for the major complexity when you're maximizing yield, the dreaded kiddie tax.
Right.
Because we're maximizing returns, which means we're also maximizing unearned income. And that's exactly what the IRS is looking at.
This is critical because if you earn too much interest, the advantage of that high APY can be seriously undercut by the tax bill.
And the kiddie tax applies to unearned income. So that's interest, dividends, capital gains for kids under 18 or full-time students under 24.
That's right.
So we need to know the specific 2025 income tiers. What's the dividing line where the tax burden shifts from the child to the parent?
The source material lays out the 2025 thresholds very clearly. It's basically 3 tiers.
Okay.
First, if the child's total unearned income is less than $1,350, it's not taxed at all. That's the sweet spot.
Zero tax. Love it. What's tier 2?
If the unearned income falls between $3,350 and $2,700, that money is taxed at the child's own marginal tax rate, which is usually pretty low, often 0 or 10%.
So that second tier is still pretty manageable, but what happens when we cross that $2,700 line?
That is the danger zone. If the unearned income exceeds $2,700, the income above that threshold is taxed at the custodian's marginal tax rate.
At the parent's tax rate.
At the parent's tax rate. So for a high-earning parent, this could push that income into the highest tax brackets, which would just crush the benefit of that 10.38% APY.
So that is the financial goalpost for tax optimization. $2,700 of unearned income. If we know that $1,000 at 10.38% generates just over $100 in interest, that still leaves you about $2,600 of headroom.
It does. But if you start adding larger sums into uncapped accounts, or if the child has significant investments, that threshold can be hit very, very quickly.
Let's put a number on that.
Sure. Let's assume a lower uncapped rate of 3.10% APY. The child would only need to have about $87,000 in those uncapped savings before hitting that $2,700 threshold.
And if they have a mix of savings and investments, the number is even lower.
Much lower. It forces a strategic timing of when to pivot from a savings account into something else entirely.
This also brings up a really important question. Is the benefit of earning 10.38% on $1,000 really worth the headache of potentially triggering a higher tax rate on all the other unearned income above that $2,700 mark?
Yeah.
You have to balance the complexity against the reward.
So given the balance caps and the tax limitations on cash, we really need to look beyond the savings account. We have to explore the alternatives for long-term growth or, tax-advantaged goals.
Right. We've established that these high-yield accounts are excellent for short-term goals, for teaching money management. But other accounts exist for earning potentially much higher returns, though with more risk.
Right.
Let's start with the custodial brokerage account.
Okay, so custodial brokerage accounts are structured pretty similarly to the savings accounts we've been talking about. They're still custodial, managed by an adult, subject to the kiddie tax.
And the funds still have to be used for the minor's benefit.
Yes. But the key difference is the investment vehicle itself. It's what they can hold.
So instead of just cash earning interest,
a custodial brokerage account lets you invest in a much wider variety of things. Individual stocks, bonds, mutual funds, exchange-traded funds, ETFs.
Which opens the door to much greater capital appreciation over decades.
Exactly. That's critical for long-term savings. The trade-off, of course, is higher risk.
Okay, and then there are 529 savings plans. These are much more narrowly defined, but they offer some powerful tax benefits specifically for education.
That's right. The 529 is purpose-built for saving for qualified educational expenses. We're talking anything from trade school fees to college tuition and books.
And the tax structure is what makes it so different.
It's completely different from a custodial brokerage account. Distributions you use for qualified education are entirely free from federal and often state income tax. And in many states, the contributions the parents make might even be deductible from their state income tax.
Now, here's where the ownership structure of the 529 becomes its most flexible feature. It's a huge distinction from the custodial accounts. With a 529, who actually owns the money?
The original contributor, usually the parent or grandparent. They retain ownership of the funds. The child is just the beneficiary.
And crucially, the account is not transferred to the beneficiary when they turn 18.
Correct. This gives the parent significant control.
That control is massive. If the original child decides not to go to college, the owner can just change the beneficiary to another kid, a niece, or even themselves if they decide to go back to school.
That flexibility is precisely why 529s are so popular for education planning. And under newer rules, some of those funds from a 529 may now be eligible to be rolled over into a Roth IRA for the beneficiary.
Wow.
Which adds an incredible layer of retirement savings flexibility if the money isn't all used for school.
So what does this all mean for you, the learner, who wants to maximize every dollar for a young person? This deep dive really provides a clear strategic path forward based on this arbitrage opportunity.
The strategy is all about stratification. It's layers. First, you have to target the capped high-yield accounts, that 10.38% from Spectra for the first $500 to $1,000.
And use those credit union membership hacks we talked about to get access no matter where you live.
Absolutely. Then second, once you hit that cap, you immediately divert the rest of the cash to an uncapped, moderate yield youth account. Or, probably better yet, to a long-term investment vehicle. You need to embrace the two-account solution for cash.
Right.
The final, and I'll admit, most complex part of this strategy is the intersection of taxation and yield. The goal isn't just to maximize the rate.
It's about timing and total unearned income management.
That's it.
And this is the provocative thought we want to leave you with. The key strategic decision isn't just about where to put the money, but when to move it out of interest-bearing accounts.
Right. If you anticipate that the child's annual interest and investment gains from all their sources will easily blow past that $2,700 kiddie tax threshold, then your priority immediately shifts. You have to ask yourself, does it make more sense to move those larger savings balances immediately into growth-focused investments like a custodial brokerage account or a flexible 529 plan, rather than risk having that entire yield get taxed at the custodian's highest marginal tax rate? Maximizing youth savings is, at the end of the day, a multi-year tax optimization game.